Hello and welcome to today's live on LinkedIn. My name is Dan Taylor, and I'm happy for you to be joining me either live on LinkedIn or for either playback or live on YouTube. Today we're going to be looking at a slightly adjacent topic to SEO, and that's really managing customer journeys in the AI era, and not necessarily looking at that kind of direct how will AI impact traffic, how will AI impact rankings, but how will AI intervene and necessarily affect how we actually perform, how our clients, how our customers find us as brands and services and then interact and engage with us. So first, a little bit of introductions. If you're new to the SALT channel or new to me, as I am a partner and head of technical SEO at the SALT.agency, we're currently celebrating 10 years of being an agency. And we're also very proud that in 2022, we became the first specialist technical SEO agency and the last specialist technical SEO agency, sadly, to be awarded a Queen's Award for international trade. And over the years, we've also done work with the Department for International Trade, delivering seminars on getting into Japan as a business and interactions in that vein. So like I said, a little bit more information about me. I'm also the inaugural Tech SEO Boost Research Prize winner in 2018. Myself and Tomek Rudsky are the only two to have won that. Mine was around Edge SEO, competing with some very intelligent people like Eric Enger and Hamlet Batista, rest his soul. I've also been 3 times voted as one of the top top SEOs by Search Engine Journal and global top 20 SEOs by OnCrawl. And it's just a smattering of some of the businesses and clients I've consulted with. I'd also like to proudly point at this point, you can actually find my writings on Search Engine Journal in my own column, which is the Enterprise SEO column, which currently has 4 or 5 articles in it. And we're going to be adding to that over months with more enterprise and advanced level SEO things such as communicating with C-level, making sense of Google algorithm updates for non-marketers, and really how to elevate that SEO from advanced to the enterprise level. So first I want to actually start off by what I mean here by organic, because obviously I'm an SEO, I work in growth. A lot of people who will be watching this are SEO, so organic tools mean something very different. What I mean by organic is actually any naturally occurring touch points within the user journey. Now, some of these touch points might be paid or promoted or something like that. The actual marketing mechanism of it for organic or paid doesn't matter. It's how often and how frequently are users interacting and engaging with a brand? How are they finding us? How are they finding products and services? Does it really matter? How are they basically doing that? AI, and it's also important with AI, I should say, that we actually understand where it is in the spectrum. So if we use a classic bell curve, Rogers bell curve, everything has to cross the chasm. The Chasm is a great book. If you've not read it, I do recommend it. But for us, AI, in my opinion, at the moment, is quite heavily based pre-chasm. We have a lot of tools which are becoming more prominent and starting to move closer, but adoption is still relatively low. It can be increased, and because of this, exposure and different elements are still changing. We're yet to really see the full effect of this market change happen. Part of that is down to actually how users go about adopting things, and most like new technologies, everything has to fall into a level of acceptability. To communicate the level of acceptability, I want to introduce a concept usually used in politics, which is the Overton window. Now, the Overton window, I think the mainstream time it's usually mentioned was in an episode of Billions, but essentially something moves from being unthinkable through to a center where it's universal. Now, that doesn't say it's only universal, it stays there and it stays in the Overton window. It can then deprecate and go to be unthinkable. As something reaches more mainstream universal acceptance, the market potential that it can actually acquire grows, because similar on a bell curve, this is crossing the chasm and going into the majority, or the market majority of your TAM, or your SAM, so your total addressable market, really. If we look at AI specifically as a technology and look at some information, so KPMG did a large study on this, 17,000 people from 17 countries, and they found that there's still some wariness around AI. So 3 in 5, 61% are wary about trusting the systems. 67, so again, 2/3 are low to moderate acceptance. Interestingly, what I found from this study was actually AI use in healthcare is the most trusted and accepted, which slightly concerns me. a little bit, but it's also least trusted in human resources, which also surprised me, being honest. But then also, people in emerging economies are more trusting, accepting, and positive. So we need to look at this not just from a broad stroke, but actually look at different user bases, the markets we're targeting, markets who we're trying to speak to and communicate with, and what their adoption curve is going to be. Because this adoption curve is going to differ between the different AI platforms and also the different target markets we're looking to actually achieve. I do believe, however, once we kind of go across that chasm with AI, we will see mass adoption of this technology. I think it's going to be quite similar to one of the other most recent technological disruptions that we've actually seen in the last 100 years. And that was actually the adoption of mobile phones and cell phones. Cell phone penetration globally in 1980 was around 0.02%. In the 20 years to 2000, from 1980, it only grew from 0.02% to 8%. It's then that the past 20 years, 2000 to 2022, we went from 8% to 97.5. There was a phenomenal growth curve. In fact, the number of subscriptions globally for cellular utility services and different elements actually exceeds market penetration, so like 103%. There are more mobile phone subscriptions out there than there are people on the planet at the moment. I think similarly with AI, once the technologies actually start to be desensitized and start to normalize, and they move into that over window when they cross the chasm, we'll see a very similar adoption curve to this. Namely because AI tools also have to match and basically go against the same friction points that we do when we're selling products and services. Anything to kind of bridge that gap, it's a perceived usefulness. The technology has to basically enrich and improve whatever they're trying to do all early days. I think it was someone who came out in the BBC early this week actually said we're probably a year away from an ever-present AI, which is able to restore memories and actually remember conversations and remember past events, similar to how ChatGPT is doing now, maybe but on a much more advanced scale, much more useful and less kind of prompt input to output driven. Secondly is the ease of use, and that's integration with day-to-day things and how integrated it becomes within our daily lives and how it just seamlessly folds into things we already do, which I'm going to come on to the next slide. Thirdly is cost. With a mobile phone example and cell phone example, that's going to be the same thing. Cell phones started off really expensive, they got cheaper. Okay, admittedly, you can still get phones now for $2,000, but the barrier to entry, the cost, has decreased massively. And then there's also trust and security. So people are still wary of this. With AI, in the KPMG study, a lot of people were actually still wary of cybersecurity, and privacy was one of the main friction points. But that's going to come with trust and desensitization. And if we just take a step away from actually thinking about users as buyers of products and services at the moment, and actually what they're actually being exposed to as part of their wider lives, we can actually start to see this process is going to happen quite quickly over the next year. Google has already launched circles of search. It's done things like trialing virtual try-ons, shopping with AI-generated images. Gemini and other AI functions for photo editing are now being integrated into all the Pixel phones. AI overviews globally launched. The exposure and intricacies in daily life is starting to happen there. So that's going to desensitize over time and become a norm and acceptance. AI is going to move into the open window. Similarly, Amazon have just properly launched Rufus in the UK, and that's directly integrating into the Amazon search journey. It's not disruptive, it's just a seamless integration which is going to detract and actually desensitize again. Meta, if and when they launch in the EU and Europe, which they already have globally and already have 400 million users across Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, that AI penetration is quite huge. Again, it's a desensitization process. In the UK at the moment, Apple Intelligence is being used as a really heavy USP for the new and latest model, even though intelligence is actually going to be launched until December. And then from a slightly different perspective, Bing, the integration with so many Microsoft products, Copilot into Teams, Word, SharePoint, both commercial and personal things, it's a full desensitization process. If you expose a user to enough AI touch points through different products in their daily life, they're going to become trusting. They're going to see it as the norm. Similar to how when mobile phones were first gaining traction in the early 2000s, there was a huge amount of health scares around it because it was not understood. It was a untrusted technology. None of those health concerns are in the media now. None of those perceptions are still there. They change over time because it's moved into the Overton window and it's achieved market potential and adoption. So the reason I bring this up and why I say this is important actually to understand how users are interacting with AI is because now more than ever search is multimodal. The whole debate, I think, online for the past couple of years has heavily been focused around like, oh, is TikTok a search engine and different things like that. Well, we need to actually start shifting away from that because we're kind of at a stage now where does it really matter if we call it a search engine? Does it matter if we call it a discovery engine? Does it matter what label we put on it? The question we need to be asking is, does our audience actually spend time on these platforms? And the reason behind that is because Google isn't the only avenue to the internet. People don't just go on the internet to perform searches. And we can see that through looking at how keywords are used across different platforms. For example, portable hard drives are used quite heavily as a search keyword on Facebook, Instagram, and interestingly, not so much on LinkedIn and Pinterest. So if you're going to look at this as a marketing channel, you'd probably want to start over indexing on Facebook, around portable hard drives, different audience types. But then interestingly, VoIP systems, which have declined a lot in the past couple of years in terms of their search demand, predominantly because when 2020, 2021 happened, everybody needed to move to VoIP telephone systems because of working from home and people got set up and it's now a BAU industry. LinkedIn is actually quite high up there and Facebook has decreased. So it's understanding where your target market actually goes, where they spend time, where they're social. And this is all about understanding that actual journey and how they go from kind of top of funnel to bottom funnel. So kind of a couple of examples around that. So coffee machines, people might start off at quite top. This is a very kind of large mushroom-headed term in coffee machines. When they go to Amazon and start looking at espresso-based versus non-espresso-based, Rufus might intervene and just take people straight to a product, straight to just a pod capsule thing. They might then actually go down the ground hole bean route, go to Google AI overviews might come up and introduce the pod capsule debate. And then that's going to start going to if it's going to be plumb self-contained. There's different touch points. That journey, which we probably would have described as linear previously, is now the furthest thing from linear. And there's different tools and different products kind of nipping in and out and changing perceptions, providing different information at different points. Another good example of this is in the running shoe market. So you might actually understand the motivations behind this. So someone in running shoes might be doing like the New Year, New Me, health movement or a hobby. Or they might be coming from TikTok. They might be introduced to a fitness trend or a hobby. They go to running shoes, and they discover they actually want to do trail running. Then they enter this messy middle of Gemini might actually start with AI views giving recommendations on best trail running shoes. When they go over to Amazon, they might get Rufus interrupting them with how to size trail running shoes. And then from that, there's potential different products they're going to be presented with as solutions. And all it takes is something to introduce a new product or service to that mix at the right stage of a funnel, or the right questions at the right stage of a funnel. And people could completely move away from that original path and not discover your product. So understanding the upstream as well as tracking the downstream and conversion points is extremely important because if you don't track the upstream, you'll notice when you start losing clicks and conversions on the downstream without actually seeing that the river's being blocked off further up. So there's a couple of empirical theories behind this. There's the active audience theory, which suggests that media audiences do not just receive information passively, but actively involved, even if often consciously. So even if your target audience isn't directly on LinkedIn to buy or on Reddit to buy or do research, if that is a platform where your competition is heavily indexing, marketing, and messaging for those products and services, there's going to be an element of unconscious engagement which they're going to be exposed to. They're actually in charge of making their decision within their own personal social context. But again, it's that barrage of subliminal messaging, barrage of familiarity, barrage of information being presented to them. The second one is the users and gratification theory, which is 1972 McQuail, Bloom and Brown. And this actually states that audiences are actively involved in determining what media they engage with and how in order to gratify specific needs or desires. This takes the prospect of AI being the interrupter and actually making it more dangerous if people actually start to engage with this and actually see it as a driver for those specific needs, and then how they actually navigate through to finding a product, finding a service, getting the search actually satisfied. So that brings us on to kind of the main questions, but how can it actually disrupt the user journey? How can we start to look at this? How can we understand the AI interrupters, the generative experiences, and how they can devolve, change, create new timelines, create new journeys within the discovery process? So the first question we actually need to be asking is, how well can AI satisfy or influence the purpose as to why the user has started, putting it as the search? Why has that user gone online? Now, we've started classifying this as really 4 main categories of user. You have a learner, a participator, a shopper, and a purchaser. So when you go online to learn, the commercial nature of a query might be quite low. It might be best X, Y, Z, how to, where can. Now, this is quite an open and simple query. The impact of AI on this purpose can be quite high. It could satisfy the query completely through a summary generative result, similar to how feature snippets led to zero-click searches, because they satisfy the query. They can also introduce information to the top of a search page from a listicle on page 2 that otherwise wouldn't have received a click because it's not in the top 3, for example. It's a divergence from a historic user journey we've had. By contrast, participators and purchasers, they're less likely to be impacted. If you want to go online to participate in something, whether or not it's to argue on Reddit, argue on X, argue on another platform, AI is not going to be able to satisfy that need. You want to share an opinion, you want to consume other opinions, you want to argue opinions. And a purchaser, whilst in the shopping phase, which is in the middle where you're doing all the product research, they'll be hit and miss and based on query, because AI might take you to different stores, introduce different products, introduce different perspectives. When you actually need to make that direct purchase, AI cannot satisfy that. AI cannot take your money from you and provide you with that product. So you still need to go to the end vendor to achieve that. It's just that messy middle in which you can actually interact with things. So if we map this to more of a traditional B2B sales funnel, as opposed to just looking broadly, people at the awareness stage are more susceptible. Their queries are usually highly informational and less commercial, so they have higher rates of influence from AI. And as you go down the funnel through consideration, evaluation, intent, purchase, the actual potential influence of AI becomes lessening as you start to enter demo funnels, you start to look for reviews. There's a lot more cognitive external information happening at this point, and you're not just relying on the search journey and the pixels in front of you. The impact on the information on the top of funnel is quite profound, and we're already starting to see studies come out from this. So SEO Clarity did a study last month. They looked at 1 million keywords. AI overviews response frequency was 96.5% for informational, and it just dropped off a cliff for everything else. Google and generative AI is more confident and more susceptible the more simple and open to interpretation a query is. The more closed interpretation, closed complexity it becomes, the less chance Google has of actually finding answers, unless it's a direct how much does a sparrow weigh kind of element, in which case you've been going to African and European and it's quite a linear response. Anything which is best how objective and subjective is open to interpretation, is a simple query, the data can be pulled, it's got a higher propensity of interaction and interception. So if AI intercepts early in the user journey, it will disrupt and create that new journey. It will create that divergence point. People will discover new brands and products. People will discover new perspectives, even new questions to ask. They might even skip parts of the funnel or parts of a pre-defined user journey you've already had, just because AI is taking them down a different route, or just skipping them altogether by taking them to more endpoints quicker. If you're understanding where your content, where your marketing, where your messaging actually targets along this is important, because if you're targeting, say, 3/3 of the funnel, and people are now moving from the top to the middle half or lower half, they're skipping your messaging altogether. And again, if you're not monitoring the upstream, you'll only start to see this when the downstream's affected, your metrics and your KPIs, and then it's going to be a big reverse job to actually find out where upstream this is happening, and not necessarily the fact that You might still be ranking quite well for those commercial keywords. You still might be targeting through paid. You might still be doing the same marketing mix, but you're not looking upstream at the difference and divergences of user journeys. From an organic perspective, this is important as well, because Kevin Indig actually found in the study that there is actually a strong negative correlation between clicks and traffic in the cited URLs within AI overviews to those that rank traditionally. So the summary from this, as bolded in red, is AI citations send fewer clicks to cited URLs than the traditional positional ranking. In the example that he provides there, it was 8.9% fewer clicks. We're going to see this in traffic. That means it's going to be lesser traffic, even though in Search Console average rank will probably be 1 because we're in that citation. So then it kind of becomes a conversation of how do we understand where that traffic's going? What information is in that AI overview? How well is it presented? How well does it paint our brand in a certain light? And how can we then get that user back to interacting with our brand, our service? It's almost like we're turning into a money ball kind of situation. We lose 10 clicks from that keyword. Where do we get those 10 clicks back in a relevant, meaningful sense? Where else can we interrupt in the journey? This is almost all like a mini SWOT analysis, because it's as much a threat analysis as it is an opportunity analysis from organic search. So 3 questions to start asking when we're actually starting to put together this wider strategy in handling AI era stuff is really how open to adopting AI technologies are our target segments. Are they early adopters and hammering complexity in ChatGPT and love it and integrating AI into their own tools and fervent adopters? Or are they laggards? Are they more wary of it? Are they not using it? Do they prefer the traditional sense still? You'll know this because you'll have your portraits, you'll have your ICPs, you'll understand if your buyers are heavy engagers online and watching webinars like this or downloading ebooks, or are they more traditional and like the face-to-face exhibitions and the traditional demo routes? So you've got that data. You need to produce that almost touch point map for different parts of the journey, different queries, different friction points. The second point is how exposed are our brand touch points to AI interference. And by this, I don't just mean branded keywords. I mean, where does our brand appear? Where has our brand historically appeared? Where are those value points? And how open to interruption are they? And if they are being interrupted, how are they actually being affected? And then the third one is kind of a more offensive strategy in this sense, and that's how present are we in the generative results? If we're not present, how do we become present? Even if it doesn't provide any value to the funnel, if we can change the narrative and we become more present than a competitor, we're taking up real estate and taking somebody else out of that conversation at that touch point, which can be just as vital and also, again, creates divergence to that user journey. Building on that, in my opinion and other people's in the industry's opinion as well, SEO needs to be more cognizant of product and sales than it has before. SEO is now becoming more of a product as well as a marketing channel, and we have data which we need to start sharing and combining with sales, because we already have the portraits, ICPs, persona profiles, whatever you want to call them. We already have that. We know about the middle marketing managers. We know about the sysadmins, the info engineers. We have all them details anyway. We know what kind of content they want to engage with. Let's take that into SEO and start to map upwards. We already have data from the sales teams as to why users find friction with competitors. And if we don't, sales teams need to start asking, oh, why are you coming to us from competitor X? When we don't get a sale, when they choose competitor Y over us, oh, can we ask why? Can we have that feedback? Those feedback loops that the SDRs and sales teams will have with direct customers and potential clients is vital in actually then helping us understand that messaging. But then hopefully as well, building them up, we already know how our product and service benefits differentiate us in the market from competitors, and how they can improve the overall customer experience and why people choose us. So these messages need to start feeding back into it, understanding which touch points are important and how open to interruption and divergence they are from the generative AI tools. To be more successful with this long term, we actually need to start to access better data. So this isn't just beyond keyword rank tracking data, it's beyond just having Search Console access, GA4, things like that. It's starting to look at cohort analysis, path analysis, understanding that if a user finds us on a listicle, what is their next step? It's really starting to understand how that journey happens in as best a sense as we can. Starbucks do a fantastic example of this, which you can find online, which they start looking at the user journey map for, I think it's somebody in an office building, all the way through to them leaving the office stresses they might have of whether or not there is enough seats, if the seats are comfortable, if the seats are near charging ports, if the table is big enough for their laptop, if there's going to be a queue, etc. Everything like that is considered in this. We need to start also considering, are people finding our company on Clutch, G2? Are they going and finding us on listicles, on blogs? Are they searching for solution-based keywords? Are they just looking for, I know, competitor alternatives as branded searches? Understanding how that passive and active engagement happens is vital to actually understanding what these touch points are. We then also want to be aware and actively monitoring what the generative interrupters are actually saying around our brand and important non-brand search queries. A really strong example I've used of this was last year. I was speaking to someone who did marketing for a chain of airport lounges, and if you typed in brand name plus reviews, the AI overview being produced was not positive, and for the most part, that was an unprompted AI overview, so it generated on its own. That was a journey stopper. That would have stopped most customers in their way from, well, potential customers from actually converting. So it's understanding that, being cognizant of that, and actually trying to solve and fix that issue, even if you can't directly resolve it, getting something visible or adapting the AI overview to at least be balanced and not just negative. And thirdly, it's actually creating that cross-channel and team data sharing to create almost like that Moneyball approach. So the Moneyball approach, for those who aren't into sports metaphors, was sports being done, I believe, I think it was the early 2000s with the Oakland Athletics in baseball, in which they, rather than just trying to sign players with certain rates, they try to basically sign players with an average getting on base. Getting on base equal runs. So it was like a very statistician's methodology to building a baseball team. There's a really good film on it by the name Moneyball as well, which I'd recommend. But we almost, from the marketing side, need to start understanding, like I said earlier, if we're losing clicks, if we're losing user journey points from here, where can we mitigate them? Where can we re-intercept? Where can we create meaningful interceptions either above or below that element, and keep monitoring it and looking for opportunities to get that interaction point back? So I want to say thank you very much for joining me today. I hope that you found this little link live on LinkedIn useful as we come to the half-hour mark. I appreciate your time. If you enjoy this content and you want to see more of this, please do subscribe to the SALT LinkedIn. Also to the SALT YouTube channel. Please drop a like on this video. And if you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out or to drop them in the comments. So my name's been Dan Taylor, and thank you very much for watching.